Hey church, welcome back. We're so glad that you're here with us. This week we did part 2 of prayer and we want to continue from where we left off, and we're talking about perseverance in prayer and also listening to God, because prayer is a conversation and it's not a monologue. And in Mark 11:17 it says that my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves. Wouldn't it be great that we could always have our prayers answered immediately? But sometimes that is not the case. Sometimes the place where you pray and the promise is there is a gap. So what do we do during those times where we're in the gap, where we feel there's a delay, we feel that our prayers are not being answered? What do we do? I think 2 things that are very important is we persevere. We don't give up. We keep moving forward in our prayer. We keep staying in faith and believing the promise that God has given unto us, as we begin to hold on in faith and in prayer and just keep believing and trusting in Him. Alright, and the second part is listening. So because prayer is a conversation, therefore it involves talking and listening. So when you pray, also find time to hear God. Find a place where you can quiet down your soul, find rest and hear from Him. And as you hear from Him, you need to obey and step out in obedience so that you can see the fulfillment of that prayer. So the 3 things that are involved is praying, hearing from God, and also obeying Him, having the courage to obey. And sometimes it can be difficult. But 3 things that we need to know that actually hinder us from hearing God, from having a listening heart. Number 1 is pride. When you have pride and when you think you have it all and you know it all, it actually stops you from hearing God. Number 2 is fear. A lot of times we have fear because we are afraid of what God might ask us to do, whether it's forgiving someone or whether it's reconciling with someone, or whether it's even blessing someone you do not like. So sometimes we are so afraid to hear God because we are afraid of what He might ask us to do. And therefore our hearts become hardened and we stop hearing from God. And the third one is bitterness. When our hearts are bitter, when we allow grudge or offenses to come in, and the roots of bitterness go so deep that our hearts become so hardened that we can't hear from God anymore. And those things causes us to be less sensitive to the voice of God. So these 3 things are basically the mental barriers that stop us from hearing God, which is fear, pride, and bitterness. You may have been hurt, may have been overlooked, but the key is to release forgiveness. Because when you release forgiveness, healing comes to you and you're restored and you have a listening heart once again. Because when you forgive someone, it is basically for you to live in freedom. So we want to encourage you, to develop perseverance in your prayer life, to develop a listening heart, so that you are always sensitive to the leading of the Holy Spirit. Have a great week. God bless you.